Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest with us today on the I Drink From Skulls podcast. We have the PR queen this side of the Pacific, the badass from Bali, the unstoppable mama from the unstoppable family, founder and CEO of the Unstoppable Branding Agency, Mrs. Rhonda Swan.
The crowd goes
Oof,
wild.
oof, oof. Hell yeah.
How are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Super. We're good. Yeah. Bali is hotter than ever. Hopefully cooling down soon. But, just riding it with the waves.
As you do.
Let's go.
I drink from skulls. Drink from the skulls of my enemies.
For everyone's benefit, whereabouts in Bali are you? What have you got going on?
Yeah. Well, we live in Bingan Beach in Uluwatu, so on the south side of the island. We're actually building a villa right now, 1 year in, a month late. And we've been bouncing around from hotel to hotel for the last month now. Every couple weeks, or every couple days, actually, recently, because Bali's full. It's booming. Business is booming. Economy, people are traveling. But hopefully we'll move into our place soon. You can come and visit.
Yeah, can't wait. One of the best days of my life was with Katie. For her birthday, we were in Uluwatu, either at Single Fins or Sundays, and yeah, it's so beautiful, such a beautiful part of the world. Enough about me, though. Want to know more about who is Rhonda Swan?
Oh, my goodness. Who am I? Well, I am native born in the USA, Detroit, Michigan. So I'm a hardcore Detroit girl, raised with a blue-collar family, and decided that I wanted to make a bigger splash in the world. I actually played for the women's U.S. softball team, the national team for the women's U.S. softball. And right before we got invited to the Olympics in Atlanta, I actually was too old. So I moved to California to start my career working in a pharmaceutical company, big corporate executive, and then decided one day, and this will probably hit home for you and maybe some of your listeners, is that I witnessed a woman put a 6-week-old baby in daycare. And here I am, this, big corporate executive getting ready to take over the Western Division marketing department for a Fortune 100 company. And at that moment, I'm like, wait a minute, who am I to do this? Like, if that's what I'm going to expect as a woman business owner, as a woman with wanting to have a family, if that's what they're expecting of us, to put a 6-week-old baby in daycare, and this woman was like 15 minutes late for a meeting and she got completely thrown up on the cross by my boss. I was like, no, there's got to be a better way, So I actually, in 2004, I quit my job as a, big C-suite executive with GlaxoSmithKline, and I actually started working on the internet. I started searching around, like, what's happening on the internet, and I watched a documentary with Steve Jobs, and this was like 2003, and he's like, if you're not learning the digital markets, if you're not learning how to leverage the online space, then you will be left behind. I'm like, okay, This is 2003. I've been, done the master's degree stuff, but they didn't teach you anything about, the digital markets, and certainly online, because it was just coming out. No social media was around. So I just double tapped and started digging really deeply in, and became one of the first women to work online, make $1 million with the sales funnel before it was cool. And now the rest is kind of history. I'm a mom of a 16-year-old epic child who started her first company when she was 11, made her first 6 figures at 12, bought her first property at 16, and wife of a avid surfer, the unstoppable surfer. And I own the, branding and PR firm. So that's what I do for fun. Working is fun, right? For workaholics like us.
Yeah.
And all the rest falls through the cracks.
I love that. So many people are going to get such a big benefit out of hearing your story. The moment I met you, it made an instant connection with me. This was 2019, so maybe 4 years ago. Damn, time flies. 3.5, 4 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah, that's crazy. And my wife and I I think Katie may have just been pregnant, or we was looking to have a baby at that stage. And your story moved us so much so that we made the same vow you did. I'm like, oh my God, that just hits me to my core.
Yep.
I had seen a little bit that with things like that. Used to do commercial cleaning, and we had childcare centers and things like that. And just to see the little ones go in, I know not everyone can, it's a good option for some people, but I just knew when you shared that, I'm like, that is what I need to do in life. That is what I want to do. I want to build this business so that I can spend the time with my family and do the things that are important to me. So
Yeah.
very courageous for you to do it, though, to build an internet-based business when the internet was still probably dial up and making crazy noises, and there was no social media back then. So I guess that sort of brings me to the next thing I want to touch on is that social media is massive. We all know that. And you and I know it better than anyone that social media can be very deceiving, can be a highlight reel where people only put up the good stuff. Maybe they're indulging about how good things are. So that's what I want to dig into. Like, I want to talk about what it's been like for you to be a business owner, a mother, and just yourself being Rhonda.
Yeah, it's a really good question because I think that's something like, busy CEOs, especially when you're talking to women, right? It's kind of like you either were told, at least I was, you have to choose, right? You have to choose whether you're going to go corporate direction, right? And have a career, or you're just going to be a stay-at-home mom. And I remember actually, really being told that, like, no, that there's got to be a different way to be able to do that, So, that's where I really tapped in. I mean, we have very similar values with our family. And, my mom was always with me when I was a kid. And it was like, but my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I didn't want that. I'm like, why can't you still be a powerful woman and still make money, but you can still actually raise a family? And so, like navigating through that, it wasn't the easiest, but I was fortunate enough, and I actually started my company. So I actually started working with Perry Marshall. Like, he's my guru, my mentor. And this is like right when Google and Google Ads are really coming on to play. And Perry Marshall wrote the algorithms for Google AdWords, and so I started working with Perry, and he's like, look, if you can learn this as a skill and learn copywriting, you will own it. Right. And so that's what I started to do. And this is actually before, 3 years before. I'm a planner. So I witnessed this lady put a kid in daycare, and I'm like, that's not what I want. And so let me just start building this company now. And so I took 3 years and fully built our company. We started building brands. It was crazy stuff that we did. Like, I literally was building one-page websites, running Google Ads to a website that had a really wonky embed for video, no YouTube. It was called Audio Acrobat. Like, back in the day, I'm sure they're not around anymore because it was like wonky, like all these weird buttons. But one thing that I did is I started to connect with people. So I'm running traffic, and I would send them to an 800 number. So, like, imagine this funnel. You go from an ad saying, executive income, change your life, blah, 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 to call me at an 800 number. But it worked. People were, like, yep, I want to change my life. I want to change my trajectory. So I built the company, and we did really well. I replaced my 6-figure and my husband's 6-figure income within about a year. I retired my husband, Brian. He, became my partner. So we were like really, blew it up. And then things changed a lot. And we had invested in a lot of real estate. And in 07, 08, which is the biggest financial crisis, we lost it all. Right? Like,
wow.
We signed our name, 26 homes, $1 million homes, construction loans. And I had just found out I was pregnant. So we signed off our name to the developer to build the homes. And sure enough, 2 months before my daughter was born, we found out the guy frauded us, and he stole all the money out of the construction loans. Homes weren't built, toilets, but it's time. Like, you owe on these loans. And we're like, oh boy, this is not going to be good. And it wasn't. And my daughter was actually born 33 days early because I was absolute disaster, stressed out. We just had to make a really big change where we're like, okay, is the money that we have in the bank going to make us better parents? Is the assets we have going to make us better people? And how do we get ourselves out of this mental mind fuck that we were in, which was, this ego, like, oh, I own $26 million homes, a golf course, I got Mercedes, and I live in La Jolla. Deepak Chopra lives, around the bend from us. Frank Kern lives just up the hill. Like, we were in a mess. And so we just decided we're going to let it all go. We sold everything, fire sailed it, and left November 25th, 2008 with a vision and a vow to never put my daughter in daycare and to rebuild our life. And so I answer your question with a bigger story in the front end, because what I thought my life was going to be like then is very different now to when I decided I had to leave.
Yeah.
Because I had tons of money in the bank, right? And now I'm a bootstrapper. I'm a startup again with a baby and a master's degree with a multiple six-figure income that I could go back to.
Yeah. If there's ever a definition of burning the boats and going all in on something, your story definitely caters to that. And we get hit up a lot. I'm sure you do too, about people who are in that. They're in a good job. They're making good money. It's all right. It's like the worst situation really, because they're too comfortable to leave, and they're not really doing anything. They're not having any impact. A lot of people, and it's a huge psychological thing that all humans go through. They compare themselves to others, and they get content with that. But you were put in a position where you lost everything, and yet you still decided to burn it all down, make a big change, and do something different. How did you do that? It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's really where it's like, okay, look at yourself and say, this is what, I had to take inventory. I'm like,
yeah,
is that, the direction that we're taking now going to make us, obviously better parents? And we're like, actually, if we stay in the direction that we are, we're going to be stressed, right?
Yeah.
So how can we clean our minds and get back to the core of who we are, which is being really great parents to this new baby, leaving a bigger impact on the world around us, and getting out of the negativity box. I think this is what happens to a lot of people, right? There's so much environmental, negativity around you, whether their intentions are, to be negative. Usually it's like our friends are like, go back and get your jobs, be responsible. The internet thing was cute. Good idea 3 years ago, Rhonda. But, my husband's a robotics engineer. Go back. You have a child. Relive, your life. We're like, is that living?
Yeah.
Is that really living? And, we went from millions in the bank to leaving with $12,872.62 with our name and a vision and a vow to never put my baby in daycare and to build our life again. And we were happier and more content with that amount of money in the bank because we knew we could control it. We knew that happiness came from within. We could, decide. I mean, I'm not going to say it was easy. It was not easy, but it was like a decision that, once you go, it's like my husband's a big surfer. We met surfing 24 years ago. If you're in a big double overhead wave, like 20-footer, and you're paddling, you can't second guess that, right? You got to go, or you're going to get
go all in. Yeah.
So we were like, all right, so we're going to go all in. We're just going to do it, and we're going to see what happens. And the great thing about that is that the universe, if you want to say, just starts to, line up as long as you're committed to who you are and what you're doing. And it did start to work for us, and it took us years to rebuild our life. And however, now we're more grateful for that opportunity that happened because my family's closer. I would have stayed doing the exact same thing every single day, right? Same life, same car. We probably would have never traveled very much because we thought you couldn't travel with kids, right? And sure enough, now my daughter's lived in almost 50 plus countries, and she's global child, and she's just changed her perspective on life, and it's made us more enriched human beings.
I love that. How did you, let's shift tunes a little bit. How did you get into branding and PR? How did you start the...
Yeah, when the internet really started, right, it was like the easiest direction for me was my company blew up, and the reason why is because I became a character on these websites, right? I became a character to a 3-line ad, right? I became a human. They're like, what? This is a person that I can speak to. And so I realized at that early on, because I have a master's in marketing and in business. And so I was working with, I was running $500 million of advertising campaigns and budgets for Philip, I worked for Philip Morris and then for Glaxo. And so I'm like, the one thing that I did and I learned in corporate was the reason why people are buying all these products is because of the marketing, the branding, the identification of a brand. And so I just took all that knowledge into me building our company. And when people were talking to me, they're like, oh, I know you. You have a story. I appreciate you. You're traveling the world with your child. I'd love to talk with you. So I immediately broke through the ice with these people. They weren't cold leads. They knew who I was. So obviously our company grew that way. And I'm like, okay, how can I actually help more people like me break through and do this? And so we started building their online brand, really teaching people how to develop their storyline, how to connect, and then of course YouTube pops open and then Facebook comes out. So we had a major platform that no one knew actually how to really use because I was already doing it in a really weird way. So I don't know if you, I'm sure you know Tim Ferriss, right? The 4-Hour Work Week.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So the reason why we left is because we read the chapter 12, I believe it is, in the 4-Hour Work Week that said take a mini retirement. And so that just pushed us over the edge. Well, I reached out to Tim Ferriss, letting him know his book saved our life and, it changed our blah, blah, blah. And so we had this really cool interaction with Tim. Well, one thing Tim didn't know is how to use Facebook at the time. So what I did is in Facebook back in the day, you could go and upload videos. You could actually go to someone's page and you could upload a video on their feed. Well, I figured out that I could leave a testimonial thanking Tim for what he taught us and that our company and our business, and this is what I'm doing, is that we got flooded with Tim Ferriss fans.
I'll bet, yeah.
How the hell did you get on my feed? And we were like, hey, it's cool. It stayed up for about a year. We probably made $500,000 from Tim's feed. It was epic, right? It was like, I was early on, And so, so we just, and then of course people were like, how are you doing this? What's happening? So things really grew from there. And then I identified at that point now, branding is everything, right? It's everything, not just the look and the feel, the brand image, message, the strategy, but like how people are actually tuning into your brand and your values. And so my value ladder used to be brand, image, message, strategy, and then PR, which is, expansion of your message. And now lately, the last 5-some years, we really took on PR as being our front end. So we're working more with like more established companies that are actually like really doing something so I can help control the narrative and get their story told in a different way. So their clients are seeing them from a third party validation opposed to just you saying how great you are or an ad saying how great you are.
Yeah, I love that. And just on branding and PR, I haven't met anyone who's better than how you put everything together, how you explain it, and how you execute. And on that, I'd love for you to share, like, what do you see most people do when they're building their brand versus what they should do?
Yeah, great question. I think a lot of people will jump in, and there's definitely two sides of the coin, right? So we always look at, all right, what really is the objective of this brand, right? If you're just going for sales, then just shoot the moon and go for sales, and you're as long as you have a great product, then sell it, right? Now, if you're going for longevity, you're going for legacy, and it's a more service-oriented company, or it's something that is going to be part of like your personalized love and brand, I say take a lot more time, because most people will they start, running ads. But what ends up happening, they're running ads and they might be making sales, but the moment there's another widget that comes out that competes with you, all you're doing now is competing at price. Yeah. So if we start focusing on the front end, like what is my actual value what can we nail? Like what is our bullseye, if you will, that bullseye client, who am I going to support or help or serve the best? And then you'll certainly get rings around if you get out of it, but who is that one I can nail? And then you construct your message around that person. And, understanding where that client that you're communicating with, where are they at in their buying process? Because a lot of times we got a great story, we got a great product. The brand is realized because we know the service, we know how we're going to support people. So what happens is people then, they don't know exactly where the buyer is in their awareness scale. So they might prepare, the brand looks great, the sites are awesome, the ads are quality, but what happens is they lose this and they miss this big gap. And it's, where is my buyer at in their awareness scale? So their awareness scale being, I'm not aware at all that I've got even a problem, right? I don't even know it. To, I've got a problem, I just don't quite know who can fix it. And then of course the next is, all right, I know the problem, but I actually know there's products out there and they're searching actively for a product. And of course, next is they're now fully they're ready to go, and they're fully aware that there is someone that can solve my problem. What I find is most people go into the right into the middle of, I already have a problem and I'm just looking for a product. But unfortunately, most of our clients, they kind of know they may not even know they have quite of a problem yet, and they don't know there's a solution to that problem. And so this is where the greatest, I think, advice I can give someone that's developing their brand is not just make it look pretty and know it, but know who that person is and where they are in the awareness scale and ready to buy. Because we see it happen all the time, right? People are just, and you see it because you run ads, you work with your clients. It's like, where are they at? Like you're talking to them like they know your product is going to be the best thing since sliced bread, and they have no damn idea what their problem even is,
Yeah. That's super interesting. Another cool thing that just came to mind was like something you just mentioned there, is knowing where the client's at, and thinking about where they're at before they need your help and where they're at after they need your help. Because if you can put your message and start getting exposure before and after, kind of create this circle where they never get away from it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I always tell people it's actually never too early or too late to start PR, because PR is very different in the way, especially the way we do it, because we build the online footprint. We Google index their name, and we use tier 1 and tier 2 publications to do that. So when someone's searching for you online, you show up as the authority. You have a Google verification and panel on the right-hand side. And it's like, well, that's a public figure, or that's my solution, right? So what ends up happening is if you start doing PR for yourself right now, it's like, I always use the example, when you're in Times Square, you can be in Times Square on a megaphone, holding a megaphone going, I am so awesome. My products are great. I'm going to service you. I'm going to do this for you. You're like, oh, that's nice. You kind of walk by them usually, especially the weirdos in Times Square, right? But if you've got very credible source, let's say Forbes, right, Men's Journal, Inc. magazine, standing in Times Square saying, okay, I Drink from Skulls is the most powerful podcast for business owners. You need to tap in. They're like, oh, that's a recommendation, right? And so that's what we do with PR. We allow the big names to tell your story, to weave in your narrative, what your service is, how you help people, and we allow that to speak for you opposed to you speaking for yourself. And so even if someone is building a brand right now, we always tell them, start with your hero's journey now. Say, this is my mission, this is where the idea came from, and then keep doing it. Now, this is where we are. This is who I'm supporting. This is what I'm doing. So now there's a long track record of quality, right? And then, of course, people are like, oh, whoa, like this guy, everyone's talking about him, or I know their story. And I think that's really going to be, that's our new move, especially in 2023, is going to be the difference in just running a ton of ads and getting click-throughs, then having PR, let's say SEO and ads working together, because that reduces our ad spend, because we know now about 23% of people that are even seeing an ad or deciding to work with you, they're going to Google you. And they Google you. If they see a Google knowledge panel, like everyone should probably Google themselves now, or Google my name, right? Because then you'll see what it looks like. Because chances are most people don't have one. Is they see the panel, they go right to my panel, they read my bio, and they click onto my website. Like this, we do this every day when we're looking at restaurants, right? This is how Google started. It was called the Google Grid, the map, right? Where they put restaurants. So if you search them up, you know where they're at, and that's their panel, but it goes right to their website. This is what we're seeing. So now the ad spend goes way down, because they might be seeing your ads, 1, 2, whatever it is, up to the 17 mark until usually people make a decision. But if they're going and then searching for you or your company, and they see about a panel, you're credible, they're going to go right to your website. So we're helping reduce ad spend, increase credibility, and of course, improve revenue.
Nothing more powerful than that. I think statistically proven that, if you tell your people they're the best and you're running your own ads, people will buy into what you're doing 10 to 12% of the time, or 15% of the time. Whereas when it's coming from a verified third party with high credibility, they'll believe, buy, and invest 76% of the time, which is just insane, the difference. So
it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous on how it works.
One cool thing that you gave me this great idea, you've probably done it before, just came to me. Let's think about PR, right? So
Yeah.
you're getting someone like Forbes Inc., the big players that have instant trust and credibility. Let's say you're a roofer, a home improvement company, service-based,
Yeah.
and you get featured in that. And, 2023 is a crazy employment market. Who do you think people are going to go to if they see you've been featured, and you've done some back-end PR work with the stuff you mentioned with Google, but you've got these features and you've got a great story and people actually know who you are? It really sets you up to be in a position of power in this weird employment world that we're sort of navigating through.
I mean, that's what a lot of our clients are using it for as well, because, right, like everyone's trying to choose the right person or the right company. And the moment they're like, wow, okay, there's a big credible source. Like, for instance, we work a lot with solar companies and
Cool.
solar companies, right? So we do a lot of PR, especially in California, especially because the state's giving some credit to the, to the buyers. But these guys, because it's like they're a widget, and they are like, they're literally competing on price. Man, we started doing these PR campaigns for these guys. They're getting the best of the best. The clients are also obviously looking upon like, okay, that, these guys were in Forbes, they were just on a, big entrepreneur magazine podcast on how the CEO is taking the company and their vision. And it's like, it changes their company, completely changes them. So they're no longer now knocking and representing a company that's just like everyone else. Now they have a portfolio. They're like, look, our CEO was just recently in Forbes magazine. Our CEO was like, works on Entrepreneur magazine. We're actually doing a big feature here. And they don't have to really talk about it. They just show it on their campaign. And they're getting amazing people that are coming to these companies because they want to work with a credible source, and because it makes it easier for them to sell it,
Really puts you in a position of power.
Yeah.
And I don't know anyone who doesn't want to be in that spot.
Yeah. I mean, come on. It's, celebrity status stuff and having someone else talk about you. That's, that's our best form of referral of what we do, getting someone else to do the work. And that's why we're saying it's such an easy business for us, because we're big winners. We win for everyone. Everyone's like pumped because, they get to leverage the work that we put them in. In fact, for a long time, we still do it. We run ads to these articles. Yeah. You just run ads to them, right? And so now, no matter who you're targeting, they're seeing you completely different. And then you follow through in an offer, or you just follow through with more value-based work that you do. It's like, I saw that company on Forbes magazine, right? Like, of course I want to work with them. So that's the kind of work that we do, because we're a digital marketing agency first. We start leveraging, how do we leverage this PR to grow your business,
It's so cool. It was a great share with the solar companies too. No doubt the roofers who are listening should be listening to that part and reaching out to you to see how you can help them.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you do? Like, let's just talk. You've worked with heaps of solar companies. What would you do if a roofer or a home improvement company comes in and say, hey, we don't know what to do. We know we should do some PR. We're sick of competing on price. How do you walk us through that? That'd be so
yeah,
cool.
Well, I mean, the first thing that I do is I actually search up data, right? Because data never lies. Everyone can sell a good story. Good talkers can sell everything. And so I learned, especially being a woman in this type of industry, right? There's usually the dudes that are bros city and sitting on the table together. So I always pull up their data, and I pull up like, what is their online health? Like, what is their website? What's their traffic? What is it actually? What is their scores? What are they pulling up as? Because Google gives a ranking. We use a system called Ahrefs, and Google gives a ranking, and it shows exactly what you're doing. I can see someone's online health. It's funny, actually. I'll get people coming in. Oh yeah, we're doing this. We're big macho. I'm like, oh, let me just look. Yeah, I was like, actually, no. You have no traffic. There's no organic following. So I know exactly what's happening with everyone's brands usually. So I'll do that first, though. It's not to make anyone wrong, because usually most of us aren't. We're just not focusing on it, right? So
yeah, that's right.
Focus on it, we grow it. And so we look at the online health, and then I just search their name on Google. I go to either, incognito windows to make sure there's no cookies, nothing happening. We just search them organically. And when you search your name or your company, you want to look at a couple things. And this will be really good insights, because most of us don't know it. And immediately when you search on Google, you'll see on the right-hand side if Google has recognized you or your company as credible, and that's where that panel comes up. we don't create panels. We just do the work that makes Google get turned on to your name, your keywords, and your brand that says, boom, credible. And so Google starts going, oh, wait, pull that info, so that's where the panel's at. So I look there first. If they don't have a panel, then I said, no worries. Most people don't. We can work on that for you. And then we go from the All tab under Google search, and we move to the News tab. Now, most of us don't look there because we're not aware of it, but this is actually where all of the third-party validation is happening. It's where who's talking about you now. That's where it talks to Google, and it says that you are credible. So if they don't have anything, no PR done, then we just start layering storylines, PR about this brand. And we usually do it with like tier 2s. So there's, a lot of really quality Google source, news source, tier 2 publications. There's a lot of junk out there, but the ones that are news sourced will index your name. They'll index your company and your name so that when you are searching for your name, they'll start listing, right? And so we do a lot of reputation management for clients as well. If they've had some funky stuff go down, we just layer it and then we index their name. So that's what I always do first is look at what's their health, where are you at? And there's always room for improvement because all we need to do is just start anchoring in and indexing the company's name that then starts bringing traffic to the website. It starts turning Google on. And now we're building an online brand that's credible. Social media, verification's cute, but Google owns all. Google's the data holder. And if you're Google verified, now that's really where your credibility will stand.
Yeah, absolutely. And then do you look for opportunities through your connections with some of the leading and best known publications to get people featured in and things like that? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we represent a client. So we basically will take them, what they've done, and we then, create a pitch for them. And, we look at, especially find out what the objectives are of the, of their business. So as it's generating more leads, we have to go with very service-based, talk about the products, right? If it's, brand credibility for a CEO, we tell the CEO story. So it helps build value to the company. And when we do that, then we just go and we start working. I have a lot of relationships, obviously. I've been in the industry for 16 years. So I pretty much can say, hey, this is the brand you need to talk about. This is what we need to publish. Yeah. And then, we get them in. When it comes to the tier 1s, it's a much bigger play. I've got to really have someone behind it in order to go and pitch them. And that's why we start with our layering first, get a story, make sure they're verified. And then I can go and pretty much pitch them to anything, right? If they're credible, then we can really get them in. And for us, we turn clients down every day because they've got
to,
they've got to tick the boxes and the value base and alignment. But we tend to find the right ones, and the right ones come to our side.
Yeah, I love that. What's a question I should have asked but haven't yet?
All right. So the one question you should ask me is, what am I working on right now? And we just launched Wild Magazine, and we're now a Google News source, which is really, really hard to do. So we're competing with traffic of the likes of Forbes magazine. And it's called Wild because I'm also the founder of this big Wild brand that's about women empowerment. But now we're building this Wild Magazine that's going to have wild men, of course, wild women. And it's about like really strong storylines and entrepreneurs that are making massive impacts on the world. So it's not any of this, kind of fluffy fashion and beauty. It's like real stories, real CEOs, real people that are doing stuff and that are willing to talk about it, right? Like, I love the stuff that you share because it's like, this is some of the stuff that people they sugarcoat. Like, no more of this. Like, we need to control narratives that actually open people's minds to changing the way that they think. And when you own a publication, you can do whatever you want, right? So we're on social media, we kind of be quiet, but so that's a big project. That's a big one that we just launched. I'm really proud of that. Wildmag.com, and it's growing.
Sounds amazing.
And yeah. We got a big red carpet event if anyone's in the USA in June.
Nice.
Yeah, June 17th.
Whereabouts?
Huntington Beach, California. Yeah, we've got a big red carpet PR, big wild event that we're launching.
Oh, sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Rhonda, you've shared so many great nuggets today. Where can people connect with you? How can people find you? What's the best way?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to find me, Rhonda Swan. You can search me up. I would Google me, actually, so then you can actually see what a Google Knowledge Panel looks like. Hit the news tab. You'll see all my press, because that's actually the work that we do and I want people to see it. But I play really strong on Instagram. That's actually where I really give the most value and, talk about the things that we do and how we do it. And but my company is unstoppablebrandingagency.com or rhondaswan.com.
It's amazing. Rhonda, you've been absolutely fantastic. I just wanted to thank you for sharing some time with the I Drink from Skull crew. Any final words before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I always say to people, if you want to create a brand, create a sexy brand. And if you want to be anything, be unstoppable.
I love that. That's amazing. Alrighty, that's a wrap. Stay tuned for the next episode.